Hey guys, what's up? This is XWolfX here, coming at you with a discussion video. Now, this discussion video is actually about archetypes or decks, whatever you really want to call it, and whether or not they should have a prime day and then be gone and out of the game, or if they should still be relevant. Now, let's get started on this. Okay, this all kind of came about after we were having a heated me and a guy who goes to my locals. He goes every now and then. He's kind of a newer guy to our locals. And we kind of got into a heated discussion about, like, STRATOS coming back and, like, you know, heroes having their time and whatnot. And so it kind of got me thinking, should decks really have their time and be done and no longer playable? Now, this guy is actually a Magic the Gathering player, so he's used to, and I mean, he plays competitively, so he's used to, like, the after so long, you know, sets cycle out. Now, and I mean, other card games do it too, like Pokemon, and I'm pretty sure a couple others I'm going to forget to list, you know, Magic, Pokemon, whatever. And what they got to keep in mind is this is a completely different game. This is no longer like, oh, hey, you know, after a year or so, my cards are no longer usable. No, this is a game where it's purposely designed so where you can actually use your old cards from back in the day, unless the ones on the ban list, but that's because they were completely game-changing and all this and the other. And one other thing is Yu-Gi-Oh! Is always evolving, so sometimes, like, the old support does have to come back for certain decks to be able to keep up, or they're not going to be able to play. Because, you know, power creeps happen, or the game's always changing, and this, that, and the other. But one thing that is really cool about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is it has so many different decks that, like, in a couple formats ago, you know, like, the Hands format, I realized, yes, that was probably the best deck, but, you know, other decks could actually be played, you know? But I'm just going to go over some archetypes real quick, you know, like decks, whatever. Dark World, Heroes, Dragon Ruler, Lightsworn, Windups, Morphtronics, Boojins, INZEKTORs, Mermail, Firefist, Noble Knights, Burning Abyss, and even 6 Samurais. I mean, obviously I'm not going to go through and list every, you know, deck or archetype in the game. But, I mean, look at it. You know, we have so much variety, and it's just kind of bad when we, like, hit these other decks just because we're like, oh, this card's too broken. But yet, we only have, like, a 2 to 3 deck format that, like, is topping everywhere, and then nothing gets done to those decks. Which that's going to be in another video about formats. But right now, it's just kind of, here's what I'm getting at. I don't think any deck should have its time. I feel like what Yu-Gi-Oh! Should be doing, and I feel like if they were not all about money, and what they could do is, you know, actually take time to balance each deck, so it's more like, okay, look, you know, like, this deck is good, it's got its theme, it's got what it can do, and you know, you could play with it, and, you know, certain decks are always going to have bad matchups against each other. It's going to happen. You know, like, rush decks were always bad against, you know, like Glad Beast, because it's like, oh, I have all these back rows, and I'm going to out-resource you. Then that kind of brings into, you know, the 3 different types of decks, you know, like Control, some people call it Rush, or whatever you want to call it, and then there's Toolbox decks, too, you know, which kind of just search out whatever they want, which is kind of a unique thing. Now, you know, every deck has their gimmicks and boss monsters and this, that, and the other. And that's what really makes this game so fun and unique. It's like, oh, hey, look, you know, I could be playing Heroes and somebody else could be playing, like, you know, 6 Samurai. And it's just like, oh, hey, look, this is a different deck. Let's face off. Or, oh, hey, look, Heroes versus Dark Worlds or whatnot. But what else really cracked me up was he was talking about how STRATOS was so OP or whatever. But yet he wants the Dragon Rulers back. And I'm like, whoa, wait, what? And if you guys are just getting back into the game, Dragon Rulers it basically was just the one deck you were playing. I mean, yes, there was Prophecies, but to be honest, Dragon Rulers were probably the best, they were the best deck out at the time. Anything that was happening was just like, LOL, you're not doing anything. And it's just like, wait a second. So you want this broken deck back, but yet the +1 for Heroes you want stayed banned. That makes no sense. He was just talking about, like, how every deck should have its time and then be done. And I just don't agree with that. I just feel like, you know, every deck should be able to be able to be played and be played competitively. You know, and I mean, I realized there were like some formats, you know, forever ago that we did have a tier 1, but even tier 2 decks could play against it. And then you had like rogues topping. And then nowadays it's just like, okay, are you playing tier 1? Okay, no, you lose. But that's a different, once again, that's a different video. So you guys, well, also for people who are coming back into the game, like people who love the GX era, there's like, you know, Elemental Heroes, Cyber Dragons. Roids obviously are not more compatible. I wish they were. Trying to think of some more GXX. Let's just go ahead and go to like 5D's era. You know, you have Synchron, or you have the Junk deck or Synchrons, whatever you want to call it. Morphtronics. You have Plants. You just have all these different decks that people who got in at the 5D's era can be like, oh hey look, I want to play Morphtronics, and you know, be like, yeah, because this deck's really cool. Or people who want to play like, now I realize this is outside of 5D's era, people could be like, oh hey look, I want to play Bujins because this is a really cool archetype, I like it, I like the artwork, or whatever. Or people can even be like, okay, well, I want to play a deck way back in the day, you know, like Six Samurais or whatnot. Or even Dark World. I mean, you know, there's just so many different decks in this game. And I feel like no deck should just have their time. I feel like every deck, even like the top tiers, should find a way to get nerfed to the point of where it's just like, oh, hey, this is actually compatible, but not, oh my god, it's broken, you know? Which Konami has this habit of killing the decks off, which is kind of a bad thing. And, I mean, I realize it's good for us players, you know, at the time, but then it's like, oh, hey, you know, you kill the deck, and people who actually like the deck can no longer play. I feel like, you know, there should be a nerf version where people can still somewhat play it, but not be as, like, powerful as it was. I mean, some decks, you know, there's just no gentle way of, like, you know, nerfing it. It's either you hit it or you miss it. And I realize that's going to happen, but honestly, I feel like in this game of Yu-Gi-Oh, any deck should be able to be competitive and actually top events or whatever. Now, in the here's my question, and comment below to tell me what you guys think. What do you guys feel? Do you think like decks should have their time, or do you feel like any deck should actually be viable? You know, like I said, comment below and tell me what you guys think. Also, if you guys like this video, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. And you guys have a nice night or good morning or whenever you see this video. And give it a thumbs up as well, because you guys are awesome and Yu-Gi-Oh is awesome, and yeah. Alrighty. XWolfX out.